What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. I'm excited to provide this video to you guys. I really am, because we're going to be talking a little bit of speculation. We're going to be talking about a potential cut post June 1. And last I checked, that is today, or also a potential trade. And this player has some ties with our defensive coordinator in Spags. Again, I'm super pumped to talk about this because this is one of my favorite players in the game, and I do think that they have done a tremendous job. What am I waiting for? It's Landon Collins, ladies and gentlemen, from the Washington football team. We understand that Landon Collins tore his Achilles and was going through some injuries, but he's coming back from that, and he's going to be really kind of providing some spark to that defense if he stays with the team. So if you're interested, I suggest to stay tuned right after this. But before we dive in and start talking about him coming to the Kansas City Chiefs, his ties to Steve Spagnuolo, I ask that you guys smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, comment down below, and now it's time to get into this video. Let's go. It's Landon Collins, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is a very good safety when healthy. And when he was playing in New York, he was putting up some epic numbers, really doing some good things from the safety position. I do think at some point when Spags obviously came to the Kansas City Chiefs, there was a potential trade for the Chiefs going after Landon Collins. That obviously didn't work out. I do think they probably attempted to sign him in free agency, but it seems like based on the offer he received from the Washington football team, he got max dollar, and so we understand why the Chiefs just were unable to get this done. Now that he's coming off an Achilles injury, which we're going to talk about, and there's a chance that he could be cut after this post June 1, which again, like I said, is today, or he could even potentially be traded. That's something to look at as well. The thing is he does play a similar spot position to the Honey Badger, which obviously we understand the Honey Badger is working on an extension himself. But the reason why I think this is a good speculation, something to really think about, is the fact that the Washington football team did approach Landon Collins about playing linebacker. And he did say, I understand, playing different spots, but my primary spot is safety. That's what I was drafted for, and that's obviously why I signed with this team. So we understand that he wants to be a safety, but that doesn't mean that he can't play alongside the Honey Badger, because we understand the Honey Badger goes all over the football field. He lines up at corner. I'm sure he lines up at nickel sometimes. I mean, there are times where he lines up on the edge to rush the quarterback. So we see the Honey Badger all over the field, and so I don't believe that they couldn't coincide or be a duo together if they really wanted to make that work. It would be very interesting to see. I think this is just an exciting topic to talk about because we're getting into that time where we're going to start to see players be cut. We're also going to start to see that happen once we get into, obviously, training camp and they get going and they have to start cutting down their rosters. We're going to see probably some veterans that we least expect it, and they get the boot out the door. So football is coming, ladies and gentlemen. So let's talk about Landon Collins. It said, could Landon Collins be a surprise cut candidate for the Washington football team? This is from NBC Sports. It says, when the Washington football team signed Landon Collins to a 6-year, $84 million deal in March of 2019, the franchise thought it had the safety of the present and the future. 2 years later, Collins could be a surprise cut this offseason. I mean, that's incredible to think. At least according to NFL.com writer Greg Rosenthal. Looking deeper into the situation, there is a solid chance Rosenthal ends up being right. And that's kind of, something to think about. There's a chance this really could happen, ladies and gentlemen. That's just incredible. On the field, Collins has simply not lived up to his contract. In 2019, Collins struggled significantly in coverage. Although the safety did lead Washington in tackles, the past season under new defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio, Collins was on his way to turning in a better year than the campaign before, rupturing his Achilles in Week 7 against Dallas. In 23 games since arriving in Washington, Collins has 158 tackles, 3 sacks, and just 1 interception. And this is according to Pro Football Focus. Collins has graded out as a below-average starter in the NFL and one of the worst safeties in coverage across the league. Now think about this, ladies and gentlemen. We do have experience with safeties who have ruptured Achilles. We do have experience with linebackers who have ruptured their Achilles. And we do have one of the best medical teams here in Kansas City that could continue to rehab and get Landon Collins back up to tip-top shape. We do understand the type of football Landon Collins played when he was with the New York Giants. We do understand that Spags was there when he was playing at his elite level. We do understand, though, Landon Collins has gotten older, and we do understand that that is happening. That is also something to consider as a way to approach it. Hey, we do have your former coach, as our defensive coordinator. We also are willing to pay you. We understand that if he does get cut, there is still going to be some money involved. So are you going to have to go throw the books at him? No, you're not. But this could potentially be a decent add to that secondary, just as depth even, if he would even consider that. I mean, this is just something that I'm really excited just to talk about because, ladies and gentlemen, it's Landon Collins. So we're going to continue on. When Collins ruptured his Achilles, 7th-round rookie Cameron Curl took over as Washington's strong safety and immediately made an impact. Curl played alongside both DeShazer, Everett, and Jeremy Reeves once Collins went down, and although there were some inconsistencies from both those players, Washington really didn't lose much, if anything, production-wise. If Collins were to return in 2021, he'd likely play closer to the line of scrimmage as more of a box safety, which makes sense to why they're asking him to potentially even just play linebacker, which would be incredible. So it says that as Curl proves he's much better suited for the strong safety role. That's not why Washington signed him to a lucrative deal. We understand that. We're hitting a lot of boxes on the surprise cut bingo board, Rosenthal wrote, which just about sums it up perfectly. Releasing Collins is not that easy of a decision. I mean, of course it's not. I mean, you signed this guy to this deal for a reason. You expected him to come through. The safety's current deal makes it hard to believe Washington will release Collins at least before June 1. We clearly understand that didn't happen because we are at June 1. It says things changed dramatically, though. If the burgundy and gold were to release Collins once June 1st hits, they'd save about $7.7 million in cap space. That's a decent amount of money to free up, especially with the league's salary cap dipping around 10% from 2020 due to the pandemic. We completely understand that. We know what to expect this year. But the key thing is we understand how much it increases for 2022. So maybe they just ride it out this year and then they deal with it next year. Something to think about as well. It says the issue with waiting until after June 1st to cut Collins is that most free agents will be signed by then, considering players will have had nearly 2.5 months to negotiate with teams. Sure, Washington can still release Collins then and collect that extra $7.7 million, but there likely won't be any impact players in free agency still available to spend it on. Washington could also release Collins with a post-June 1 designation, meaning they can cut ties with him prior to the date, which we clearly understand did not happen because, again, today is June 1st. Considering all these factors, it makes more sense for Washington to stick with Collins for now, yet the safety who's coming off one of the worst injuries in sports, which we understand because, again, we've experienced it with Eric Berry. We've also experienced it with Derek Johnson, and both of them, obviously, their careers, I feel, were personally ended short. At least were cut down a little bit because of those injuries. We understand Eric Berry went through cancer. We understand Derek Johnson was getting towards the end of his career anyways, but I do think that those help speed up some of that process, especially with Derek Johnson. Just unfortunate. So it says, coming off of one of the worst injuries in sports, will have to prove himself in 2021 if he hopes to play out the remainder of his contract with Washington. The franchise can move on from him much more easily next offseason, which I do think could potentially happen, and that's also something to consider. If the Honey Badger decides, hey, I don't want to play in Kansas City, which I don't feel happens because he is a All-Pro, 3-time first-team All-Pro, you get a deal done with that guy. I mean, you legitimately do. He is a leader on that defense, but I do feel that Landon Collins could easily come in and switch spots, play depth, finish getting fully healthy with that Achilles, do different things, bring variations. We know Spags likes to throw different variations. I just think that this would definitely be something that could really spice up this defense if you get those two in this defense in the secondary at the safety position. Landon Collins and Tyrann Mathieu, ladies and gentlemen, holy smokes. I do understand, though, they play basically the same spot. They do play the same position, but it'd just be very interesting. I appreciate you swinging by and checking out this video on this speculation, on just the idea of Landon Collins being cut or traded, and even just the mindset or even the possibility of him finding his way to the red and gold in Kansas City. It would just be fascinating. It would be really cool, and it would be nice to just see him pair back up with Spags when he had some of his career years. So I appreciate you swinging by, checking out this video, and checking out the beat of KC. As always, have a good day.